8:07 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2, Hour 3 of the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us, as always, 680-680. My friends, as you know, the midterm elections are now already getting underway. And the dear leader, Barack Hussein Obama, is now making the biggest play of his presidency, without question. There are now reports circulating from the White House, being reported in multiple media outlets, that Obama is now going to be putting forth a plan of what they call executive amnesty, meaning amnesty through executive order. He wants to circumvent Congress, ignore Congress, and essentially provide work permits to about 4.5 to 5 million illegal immigrants, those that have come into the United States and had children here. So he wants to give their children complete legal status and then have the parents who came here legally give them full legal status. And he says he's going to do it through the power of the executive branch, through an executive order. And the strategy is quite obvious. He wants this done before the midterm elections. So he believes this will galvanize the Latino vote, galvanize the Hispanic vote, go to them and say, you see, I've given now amnesty to 5 million. I need more of you to show up in big numbers. And then hopefully break through and hold the midterm elections. If Republicans counter with impeachment, he'll then use that to galvanize the black vote, saying they want to impeach a black president. So this is now the stalemate that we're facing right now. To discuss this and so much more, we're joined by Joe Battenfeld, political columnist and writer at the Boston Herald. Joe, thanks for holding and welcome to the Kuhner Report.
Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm good. So, Joe, you've got this very radical proposal, very inflammatory, controversial proposal that Obama is now floating. It's being reported by multiple media outlets, whereby essentially he wants to give executive amnesty. He wants to provide work permits and some kind of legalized residency status to about 5 million illegal immigrants, saying that since they came to the United States, they've had children here, their children are technically Americans, they should be Americans, and he figures that will take care of at least half of the problem. Republicans, if they try to counter, saying this is illegal, this is unconstitutional, and say they will either defund the executive branch through the power of the purse, or go for impeachment, he will then say you're trying to impeach a black man. The Democrats are already trying to fundraise over this, and that's how they think they can get their people out big in the November elections and stop the upcoming landslide. If you were advising John Boehner, what would you tell him?
I don't know. I think this is the kind of thing that is really going to tell what's going to happen with this crisis. Is it really going to make a change in the polls? If this does happen, if Obama does this, it's basically throwing this into the face of the Republicans and a lot of people in the election and saying, here it is, we either win or lose the election on this, and that's it. So I think this is it's going to come to a head now because of this in the election. And if I was Boehner, I would not do impeachment. I would not take that bait. I would do, honestly, I think the best response is what the Scott Brown did up in New Hampshire with his ad. It is saying, hey, we want to be humanitarian about this. Everybody wants to be compassionate, but we can't let people walk across the border. Like his ad says, you have to go through security at an airport every day you take a plane. Why don't you have to go through security to become a U.S. citizen in the border? So I think there is a good response to this, and that's what I think Boehner should do. I don't think impeachment is the right answer. I think they're trying to bait him on that, like you said, and make it a race issue. But I do think that this is going to be opposed by most Americans. I think if Obama tries this, it's a big gamble, and I can't believe that most Americans are going to support it.
Joe, we have that ad by Scott Brown.
Yeah.
Play it. I want to play it for you in the audience and get your take on it. Roll it, Brittany.
I'm Scott Brown, and I approve this message. Americans go through security before they get on a plane, enter a government building, or attend a ball game. But folks who come here illegally, they just walk across the border. That's wrong. Thanks to the pro-amnesty policies of President Obama and Senator Shaheen, we have an immigration crisis on our hands. We respond with compassion, but it's time for us to secure the border once and for all, and tell people who try to come here illegally that we intend to enforce the law.
But
Joe, what do you think?
Do you see how reasonable that ad is? It's not like a shadowy attack ad. Like a type of, like Democrats want Republicans to respond like with a Willie Horton type ad and say, and so they could say, you're being racist about this, you don't want. So he's looking right into the camera, which is unusual in an attack ad like this, and not so much attacking, but he's lumping Shaheen with Obama, which I think is smart, because Obama is not at all popular in New Hampshire, and if you look at the polls, his approval rating is way down, way below 50% in New Hampshire. So this is a smart move. Obama is not popular in a vast majority of states that are having elections. So link it to Obama, be reasonable about it, and say, hey, we want to be compassionate, but you just can't let people walk across the border. And I think this is a big moment in Scott Brown's campaign, and a lot of campaigns, actually, because it's going to be an issue. And it's interesting that Brown is directly taking it on. Even before, I think this is the first ad, I believe, using this immigration crisis in an election, in a congressional election. So I think this is going to be very telling. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Scott Brown in the polls. The Democrats are already attacking him, if you notice, because of this ad. And it's a totally reasonable ad. So I think if you stick with that kind of language, I think it's going to be a big issue for Republicans.
Joe, do you think by seizing on the illegal immigration issue, do you think now that Scott Brown can turn his campaign around and beat Jeanne Shaheen?
I don't know if he can beat her, but I do think that I think it's possible. I think people are already burying him, and I think it's way too early to do that. But I do think that this issue is going to galvanize some Republican voters up there. Remember, he has a Republican primary first, so I think part of the reason he ran that ad is because he has to address that and acknowledge he's got to get the Republican base out. So if he uses this issue to really get the Republican base out and independents who don't like what's going on with immigration, and they don't, most polls show, then I think other candidates may very well follow Brown's lead. So I do think it could help him. Yes.
If Charlie Baker, I know he supports the Patrick's plan, but if Charlie took the position of Scott Brown, if he took Scott Brown's position and ran an ad similar to this, do you think he could use it here in Massachusetts to devastating effect?
Well, I think he could use the issue. I don't think he could run an ad like this. Because he's running for governor, I think he should. What he should do is do the same thing and say, I would not support President Obama. We can't let the borders just wide open like that, and we can't take in immigrants when we have to take care of our own kids first. So I do think there's a way for him doing it. I was just going to mention that there's probably no way it's going to ever happen in Massachusetts. He's not going to touch this issue, I don't think.
Now, Joe, why?
Well, just because they're afraid of getting the Democrats all revved up, and I think the polls show that most independents, I think in the latest poll, oppose this Obama's immigration policy, and the total vote, and Republicans obviously do, but as a total vote, it's a pretty much split. as to how people think about this issue. I think if Obama does go ahead with this and just let everybody become citizens, those numbers might change. I just think it's a big gamble by Obama if he does this, because I understand what they're trying to do. You can't say anything but this is a play to get votes, because you're talking about up to 5 million people, and a couple million maybe are voters in the election. If they become citizens, then they can vote. They're all going to vote Democratic. So it's an obvious election ploy by Obama, but I just don't see it happening in Massachusetts. But maybe if Charlie Baker looked at your rally the other day, he might change his mind and say, maybe this is an issue I can use.
Joe, before I let you go, final question. Governor Deval Patrick faced reporters yesterday, and he claimed that, contrary to what I've been saying, contrary to what we saw at the rally on Saturday, at his state office, he says the lines are melting 3-1 in favor of his plan. That the people of Massachusetts love housing these immigrants, illegals in Chicopee and Cape Cod, and it's running 3-1 in his favor. Do you believe him?
Well, no. Somehow I don't think that's a scientific poll. I don't think Deval Patrick's people are probably telling him about the negative calls that are coming in. They're probably saying, yes, Governor, it's great. But he knows that that's not true. And the poll, even the Boston Globe poll, show, even in a Boston Globe poll, like I said, that they were trying to get a certain result to get supporting Deval Patrick. Even when they tried to do that, it was split 50-50. I think if they just asked the question, do you support Patrick's plan to put people here, it would be against. So, no, it's not a 3-1. Surprisingly, Deval Patrick is not telling the truth on that.
We have been talking with Joe Battenfeld, political columnist and writer at the Boston Herald. Joe, as usual, great stuff. Thanks so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Take care, Joe. Nobody believes Mini-Me. But the bigger issue now, because we are the front lines, this is ground zero in the battle to stop this invasion that's taking place of our country. And so now, in the face of massive popular congressional opposition, seeing the utter chaos and anarchy at the border, now reports are coming out straight from the White House that the dear leader wants to go rogue, that the dear leader now unilaterally wants to now grant amnesty, what they're calling an executive amnesty, to about 5 million illegal immigrants. They tout the figure of 11. I think it's closer to 20, but let that go. And so they're saying we can get about half already in the country illegally by basically saying if you've had children in the United States, even if you came here illegally, then your child and you, the illegal parents, will be given work visas and permanent legal residence on the way to becoming a citizen. Now, he is almost begging, I believe, to be impeached. I don't care where you stand on the issue, even if you're pro-amnesty, and you know I'm dead set against it. The Constitution is crystal clear. There's no debating this. It couldn't be clearer. Immigration policy can only be changed, altered, by Congress, by the legislative branch, by the people's representatives. It cannot be unilaterally changed by the President of the United States. It's impossible. It violates our system of checks and balances. It violates our system of separation of powers. It violates the authority and prerogatives of Congress. This is a direct assault upon the very pillars of our constitutional republic. This is the act, if he goes through with it, of a dictatorial fiat. It is the act of a tyrant. I'm choosing my words very carefully. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional. It is criminal. It is dictatorial. And if he does this, Mr. President, I'm warning you. You think you may court the Latino vote with this, but you're going to lose the rest of the country. And if you go ahead, maybe it's time for us to go straight to Washington, D.C., and have millions and millions and millions in a peaceful, civil, nonviolent, but massive demonstration demanding that this usurper-in-chief step down from power. 617-266-6868 is the number. Executive amnesty. Does Obama have the power to do it? Do you support it? Are you against it? I want to hear from you, Boston. All of your calls next. 827 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance. You can text us at 680-680. There's a great text I want to read to all of you, because this is what Obama is doing by now, his push, it appears, for executive amnesty to basically give legalized status to at least 5 million illegal immigrants in this country. He wants to announce it before the midterm elections. They're thinking of rolling it out in the next couple of weeks. In fact, the White House is saying it's imminent in the next couple of weeks. This is from 781. Jeff, when you don't like how voters are voting, you change the voters. That's what the government is doing. Bingo. They are importing a massive underclass to transform and change the electorate. That's why Mini-Me wants him in Cape Cod. That's why he wants him in Chicopee. That's why he wants him in Salem, Lynn, Lawrence, Lowell, Peabody, you name it. Saugus, right down the list. Revere, Beverly, that's why he wants them. Because the more of them you bring in, the more secure the democratic regime becomes. I ask you, how is this not the act of a dictator? In all honesty, where does the president have the authority or the power to unilaterally grant amnesty to 5 million citizens? 5 million illegal immigrants to give them a path to citizenship. Where? Victoria, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Mr. Kuhner, bravo, bravo, bravo for our rally and for declaring that the fabric of our nation, its very heart and soul, is being ravaged, desecrated, violated. Mr. Kuhner, I heard you speaking last night on Mr. Savage's show, Michael Savage. My question, one, I have 2 or 3 points. Why is it that Obama cannot be arrested with all that you've described and that we've experienced as American citizens, that there is a traitor, as you, I believe, said outright on Mr. Savage's show and that you're expressing now? Also, I am not sure if you know about this asymmetrical warfare that's being described or what's expressed by this former border control agent who was in intelligence for 26 years. There may not be an election, for instance, if the border, like you said in one other show, the border is bleeding, and that's Jesus' body bleeding, that we're being crucified, but Jesus was already raised up, and we can be raised up with him, that our country, this border patrol says that since the border is open, it's leaving the door open for the enemy to come in with their dirty bombs and chemical
Victoria,
warfare.
Listen, Victoria, I don't know if you work for the NSA. I'm kidding on that. You anticipated my next segment beautifully, because now there are reports coming out of who's actually now been penetrating our open border. No, you nailed it. If you want to do a religious analogy, Uncle Sam, America is like Jesus. We're being crucified. And Obama is Pontius Pilate. And he's the one that's sticking the nails in. He's got him in one hand, he's got him in another, and now he's going for the feet. And my question to you is, America, it's time to wake up and kick this usurper out before it's too late. 617-266-6868. No to amnesty. No to sheltering illegal immigrants in Massachusetts. No mas, no mula. Comprende? 8:31 on the great WRKO. More with your calls. Next. 8:38 here on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. So now the dear leader, Barack Hussein Obama, sensing that he is going to be wiped out, utterly repudiated in the midterm elections in November, is now taking probably the biggest gamble of his presidency. With opinion polls turning decisively against him, with anarchy and chaos on the southern border, the White House is now saying they are going to be driving in the next couple of weeks for a proposal, an executive order that they're going to impose, not asking Congress, circumventing, going around Congress, going around the American people, to impose, quote, executive amnesty, meaning a presidential directive, an executive order, granting work permits and legalized status to nearly 5 million illegal immigrants already in the United States. And they want to target in particular, remember the Dreamers, those they deferred from deporting if they'd been, if they came here, if there were illegal immigrant children who came here? Well, now these illegal immigrant children, their parents, are going to be exempted from basically from our immigration laws, and they're going to be given essentially a pardon by the president, and they are now going to be given permanent residency status with work permits as well as access to every single government benefit imaginable. This alone will probably bankrupt us. I just want to let everybody know this. I know this country now is going off the rails, and it's going off a cliff. But you add 5 more million onto the welfare rolls. You add 5 more million with EBT cards and Section 8 housing. You add 5 more million being able to draw potentially Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare. I mean, this could be the final nail in our coffin. But the dear leader knows that if he does this, he believes he will galvanize the Latino vote. And his big play, it's so obvious, because the White House over the last 2 weeks won't stop talking about impeachment. I've never seen anything like this. Where the liberal press corps, I swear to you. In fact, Brittany, can you get that Josh Earnest cut ready? Where he's going back and forth with Jonathan Karl. And you have Josh Earnest, the press secretary for Obama, the guy who replaced Jay Carney, the White House spokesman, saying, I think deep down Boehner wants to impeach. I mean, he may not say it, but deep down, he really wants to impeach. I think these Republicans, they just want to impeach. They can't wait to impeach. And the liberal press corps is saying, well, hold on. Boehner has said repeatedly, yes, he'll take you to court, but he doesn't want to impeach. And they're like, where's your evidence? Oh, they said they wouldn't shut the government down. They did that. No. They want to impeach. You can see they're almost begging to be impeached. It's almost like they're goading the Republicans to say they want to impeach Obama. Why? So then he can turn to the African American community and inflame them by saying, look, they want to impeach the first black man ever elected to the Oval Office. This is nothing more than a political lynching. They'll elect a black man to the White House, but they won't let him finish the presidency in the White House. And so I believe this is why he is now being so deliberately provocative, so obviously lawless, so obviously abusing his power and his authority. It's as if he's goading, daring, tempting the Republicans to impeach him. And what did I tell you about this man? Bringing this country to its knees, sowing dissent and chaos and internal division, almost a civil war, hollowing out America, is what he's wanted to do from the beginning. Because in his mind, it is retribution for all of our alleged sins of imperialism and oppression and exploitation of the third world. That's what his father taught him. That's what his stepfather taught him. That's what Reverend Jeremiah Wright taught him. That's what his communist grandparents taught him. That's what Frank Marshall Davis taught him. That's all he's been inundated with his entire life. America as the evil empire. And so he believes his presidency is penance. And I think nothing would make him happier than to see this country rushing at each other's throats. 617-266-6868 is the number. My friends, if he goes forward with this move, then I think the American people will have no choice but to do what we did on Saturday and hold massive rallies all across the country, leading straight right up to the White House in Washington, D.C. And this time our call should be, Obama, go home. 617-266-6868 is the number. Kat, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hi. I am so glad you transferred up here to Massachusetts, honest to God.
Oh, thank you, Kat.
We got two Harvard scholars, and I use that term loosely, scholars. We got Obama, and then we got DeVal. And DeVal keeps saying, well, it's not going to cost you people anything. The government's going to pay. Well, he hasn't clamped down on any of the phony EBT cards that they have by a half a dozen at least, some of them, right? So why doesn't he take a closer look and save some of that money? Because we're going to be, like you say, penniless. Now, Michelle is out making commercials about people have got to vote. Now, I hate to say this, but every time you turn around, somebody in the White House is saying racist. Do you remember the poll worker, the God lover? She voted 7 times because he needed them. He deserved them. Should I say black? Okay, I'm a racist. Now, she went in a swinging door and came out the other end because she was old and she couldn't serve the time. So Sharpton and others had a big party for her. Now you're talking about these people coming in with diseases and everything, and we might get terrorists. Now we have a case of one of these coming in, an older gentleman, I guess, who went into the hospital, and he's out now, and they're looking for him madly because he's got a drug-resistant TB. Okay, so now we got to be on the lookout for that.
It's just, look, honestly, just think about it objectively. You've got people with diseases infecting the country. They're coming in across the border. Here, I've got another story. The liberal media was calling me up, but where's your evidence that they're criminals and gangbangers? There's blogs out there now mocking me. They're called Right Wing Watch. Kuhner says these children are gangbangers. How dare he say that? Okay. All right. There's about 10 stories I can cite. Let me just cite to you one. The Daily Mail. The Daily Mail now talking to Homeland Security sources. Here is the lead of the Daily Mail, okay? MS-13, one of the most violent gangs in the world. You have to commit a murder, I swear to you, just to be initiated in the gang. They have been rampaging across California, Texas, the Southwest. They're up even as far as New York, all across Latin and South America. They are almost a quasi-terrorist organization. They're that vicious and violent. Quote, here's the lead. Members of some of the United States' most notorious street gangs have infiltrated shelters housing illegal immigrant minors from Central America and are recruiting them, say Homeland Security sources. Straight from Homeland Security, they then later on say, here, I'll read you the second graph. An estimated 57,000 minors from Central America have flooded across the border from Mexico to the United States in recent months. and gang leaders are reportedly filling their ranks from among them. Transnational gangs such as the Mara Salvatrucha, also known as MS-13, and the 18th Street Gang are using established juvenile members from Central America to cross the border and recruit other children to the cartels, say Homeland Security sources, and they also refer to the Border Patrol. And so the Border Patrol, they even admit that they're under tremendous pressure from the Obama administration not to tell the media that many of these MS-13 members are the ones crossing the border from Central America. And then when they're here, the big one is in Arizona, Nogales, Arizona. That's a big recruiting center. They're pressuring these other so-called minors, they're teenagers, to join the gangs. And they pull out a wad of cash. And they say, hey, if you're willing to deal cocaine or heroin or meth or run guns, amigo, look at the moolah, la moolah, and this ain't no peso. This is a greenback. This is the big money. We've got MS-13. As I told that liberal reporter who was trying to tell me that a 17-year-old kid is a child, I said, what are you talking to me about? Official statistics in Texas by the Texas's own Border Patrol. From 2008 to 2013, 100,000 criminal illegal immigrants have been arrested for murders, for rapes, for robberies, for armed burglaries. It's a crime spree. And you want to bring this into the United States? All over? You want to bring this to Massachusetts? And now you have literally dozens of media outlets. You heard from the mayor, Kennedy herself, in Lynn. There's lice. There's a huge increase in tuberculosis. They're finding scabies. They're finding measles. They're finding chickenpox. You name it, they're finding it. Swine flu is now being detected. As the woman mentioned, I cited it yesterday. Drug-resistant tuberculosis from an illegal alien from Mexico. They diagnosed it in a California hospital. They can't find the guy. Drug-resistant. He's out in the general population. Now, this is not xenophobia, paranoia, racism. This is common sense. This is realism. This is looking at the world as it is. Here, open your door. Just open your door. I ask you this, to do what the liberals are asking us to do. Go to your house, open the door, and then advertise to everybody on your street, everybody in your community, your town, the whole city of Boston, all of Massachusetts. My door is wide open. It's wide open. Come, take what you want, sleep, do what you want, whatever, just do it. Whatever you want. Who do you think you're going to get into your house? You think you're going to get poor little innocent children? Or you think you're going to get thieves and drug addicts and gangbangers and criminals and undesirables and prostitutes and God knows what other kinds of people in lowlifes? You don't leave a border wide open. It's suicide. Terrorists are coming in. Here, another story. All I have is a stack of stories, one after another. It's all illegal immigration. Here, look, okay? Straight from the National Border Patrol. Boston Globe won't tell you this. Channel 7 won't tell you this. So, just in one weekend alone, according to the National Border Patrol Council, they noticed this group crossed into the Rio Grande Valley, straight from Tamaulipas, Mexico. They said, forget all the Central Americans and the Mexicans. They go, we're noticing now people from all kinds of countries. So, in this one group alone, they came from Bangladesh. They came from Nepal. They came from China. They came from Sri Lanka. They came from Cambodia. They came from Pakistan. They came from Afghanistan. Russians. You now have Russian, the Russian gangs. The Russian mob is now coming in through the southern border. You don't think anybody coming from Pakistan and Afghanistan through the southern border, where the Taliban and Al-Qaeda are everywhere, you don't think a couple of them could be terrorists? Who the hell lets their border wide open to any possible diseased, criminal, gangbanger, terrorist, jihadist? My friends, this is not nativism. This is not racism. This is survival 101. Patriotism, nation state 101. If we were an honest, patriotic country, Mini-Me and Deval Patrick, the Mini-Me, the dear leader, John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, they should be hauled off, I swear to you, and tried for treason. 8:54 on the great WRKO. This is Jeff Kuhner, the voice of the resistance, standing up for America.
News at the top and bottom, talk in between.
Yes, it is. Thank me very much. Go right ahead, my friend.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.
.905 here on the great WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Hour 4, the Kuhner Report, 617-266-6868. You can also text us at 680-680. Okay, my friends. So, this is now clearly the most radical gambit of the dear leader's presidency. Obamacare, don't get me wrong, was radical. Dodd-Frank was radical. Much of what he's done, the war in Libya, which was illegal and unconstitutional, radical. Arming Al-Qaeda in Syria, radical. Allowing the Taliban to essentially win in Afghanistan, radical. Enabling Al-Qaeda to take over Iraq, radical. Don't get me wrong. But now he is looking at what they're calling executive amnesty. They're going to announce it. They say it's imminent. This is the words coming out of the White House. And then about the next 3 weeks, whereby the dear leader, President Obama, is going to unilaterally, essentially go rogue. Ignore Congress, ignore the American people, because he doesn't have the votes and he doesn't have their support, and he is now willing to give amnesty to about 5 million illegal immigrants in the United States. He says the parents who've had children here. So he says their children are citizens by virtue of being born here. So all of these parents, or one parent or whoever, who've had children in the United States, even though they came here illegally, he will give them all work permits, permanent residency status. They will have access to every single benefit. Schools, tuition, education, food stamps, WIC, Section 8 housing, welfare, EBT, Social Security, you name it, Obamacare, you name it, even the Obama phone, you name it, they got it. He is now looking, obviously, to provoke a constitutional showdown. This is blatantly, obviously illegal, unconstitutional, and dictatorial. In fact, liberal law professor, a liberal, Jonathan Turley from George Washington University, recently testified in front of Congress, a liberal, saying what Obama is now doing is creating a, quote, imperial presidency model with unchecked authority. It's an academic way of saying he's acting like a dictator. He is erecting a socialist soft dictatorship. He is above the law. The Constitution doesn't apply to him. Checks and balances don't apply to him. Separation of powers don't apply to him. He does pretty much what he friggin' wants to do. And he's almost daring the Republicans to either impeach him or, what they could easily do, it has been done for much of American history. In fact, it was done often and routine, was the power of the purse. The House of Representatives, as the people's closest branch, has always had the power of the purse. That's why tax bills, spending legislation always initiates from the House, because it's the people's money. And for much of our history, how do you think the House has kept the executive branch in check? By saying, you're behaving unconstitutionally or lawlessly, we're not going to fund it. No money for you. And today, the liberal media acts like, oh, this is so radical. This is so draconian. Teabagger, hostage taker, suicide bomber. It's been practiced for most of American history. Look at Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. Good old Tip, when he wasn't tipsy and 6 sheets to the wind. House Speaker, Democrat, obviously from Massachusetts. Good old Irish boy. He liked the whiskey. Oh, did he like the whiskey? He was the Democrats controlled the House, and for most of Reagan's presidency, the Republicans had the Senate, and of course, Reagan had the White House. Just like today, divided government. You know what Reagan often said? The most powerful man in the world after myself is not the leader of the Soviet Union. It's not the Senate Majority Leader. It's not my Vice President. It's Tip O'Neill. Why? Because he was House Speaker, and hence his branch had the power of the purse. Why do you think Reagan was never able to stop government spending, to reverse it? He kept, his conservative allies would be criticizing him. He'd say, listen, they got the power of the purse. I can nibble, I can block, I can haggle, I can negotiate. But in the end, if Tip wants to defund something, Tip can defund something. Or fund it. All I can do is play defense. Or, as he would do, make a deal. I need tax cuts, you give me tax cuts, and I'll give you whatever, the spending that you want for your people in Massachusetts. That's the way it was done. That's the power of the purse. Where's Boehner? When has he exercised the power of the purse? Where is he now? Where's Bonehead? Where's the Orange Man? Forget your phony baloney lawsuit, which that will weave its way to the courts for years. Why don't you stand up and say very simply, no problem, dear leader. You want to go rogue. You want to behave illegally in a criminal fashion. We're going to defund the White House. No money. You can't implement your executive order because we won't fund it. But the liberals are going to criticize him. Oh, the dear leader will be upset. Oh, the media is going to call him a radical and a teabagger. No, turn around and say, look, read your Constitution, read your American history. It's called the power of the purse. You don't like it? Amend the Constitution. Instead, look at these gutless, cowardly Republicans. Now, this is now a constitutional showdown. This is now really going to determine what kind of a country we're going to be on many levels. Is Congress now going to essentially be a vassal of the president? Is it going to be like in Mother Russia, just a rubber stamp? Like a mere body that just advises the president whenever he feels like it? Or are we going to retain our constitutional Republican form of government whereby the president cannot exceed his authority and is held in check and accountable by the people's branch, the people's representatives in Congress? It's really that simple. And so what the dear leader is doing, As Senator Jeff Sessions says, accurately, from Alabama, I have to say this, he's not as flashy as Ted Cruz. He's not as articulate as Ted Cruz. He doesn't have the gift of the media spotlight like Rand Paul. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying those are their strengths. But if you actually look at Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama, he is a great Southern statesman in the great Southern tradition. He's cool. He's a bit debonair. He's polished. He's very well read. He's extremely articulate. He's almost like a professor. He lays out his case. He clearly knows the Constitution. He clearly knows American history. He's put some absolutely brilliant speeches together. So here is Jeff Sessions saying what the president is doing, and he's right, is openly nullifying federal law. We have immigration laws on the books. Not only is the president, the dear leader, not enforcing them, he's now going to arbitrarily, unilaterally, willy-nilly change them by giving amnesty. And if we do that, the people are being mocked, the Constitution is being shredded, and it will lead to consequences that will live with us for generations to come. Roll it, Brittany.
We're almost there, but it's not too late. I've studied this issue. It is absolutely not too late for us to restore a lawful system that treats applicants to come to America fairly and serves the national interest. This can be done. We just need the chief executive who leads. So let me state a warning for the more purely political in Washington. The results of recent primary elections show that the American people are being roused to action. And once activated, their power will be felt. They will not be mocked. They have begged and pleaded for our nation's immigration laws to be enforced for 30 or 40 years. The politicians have refused. They have defeated amnesty after amnesty after amnesty. And they will not sit back and allow the president to implement through unlawful fiat what they have defeated through the democratic process.
He's right. I said this at the rally. And let me just say this, and then I want to open it up to the phone lines to you, the great members of Kuhner Country. In 1941, not only was Hitler marching across Europe, country after country lay at his feet. In fact, by December 1941, the Wehrmacht had smashed the Russian army. He had launched his infamous invasion of the Soviet Union. Literally, by December 1941, the Wehrmacht was 25 miles out of the gates of Moscow. Every newspaper in Europe was saying Hitler, the Fuhrer, would be dining for Christmas in Moscow. Moscow would fall. And so the imperial fascist Japanese, rampaging across the Pacific, smashing China, taking over Singapore, taking over Malaysia, taking over Indonesia, taking one island and one country after another as they sought to impose their own fascist Asian empire, said there is only one power that stands in our way from us having an empire stretching all across the Pacific. A union of two fascist blocs, Hitler in Europe, Japan in the Pacific. And that is America. And so, their leader, Tojo, a fanatical fascist, a racial fascist, who thought Americans were inferior biologically, racially, to what he considered the Japanese super race, went to his finest military leader, Admiral Yamamoto. To this day, most military historians believe he was one of the greatest military leaders of the 20th century. And he asked Admiral Yamamoto, can you knock out the American Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii? Because if we knock them out, then all of the Pacific Ocean is ours. And Yamamoto told him point blank, Yes, I will deliver for you one of the greatest victories in Japanese history. And then I will run wild for 6 months to a year, meaning victory after victory. But after that, we will lose. Because America is too big, too resilient, and too powerful. Tojo didn't believe the last half of what he said. And he gave him orders, take out the entire Pacific Fleet in Pearl Harbor. And as I used to teach my students at McGill University, they'd be enraptured as I lay out the details of the plan. The attack on Pearl Harbor was one of the most sophisticated, precise, brilliant military attacks in human history. The coordination of the planes, the submarines, the subterfuge used, the timing. Just before the attack, the fighter pilots who led the attack yelled out, Tora, 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 meaning attack, attack, attack. And the planes then descended. And the Americans caught off guard. Many of them still in their beds sleeping in Pearl Harbor on a sleepy Sunday morning. The Pacific Fleet was decimated. Several of our top battleships sunk actually to the bottom. Thousands dead. Thousands wounded. The Japanese, it was beyond their wildest dreams how successful this attack was. The word got back to Tokyo literally. Tojo and his entire cabinet and Imperial Command were drinking sake and singing nationalist songs. They now said, Japan's hour has arrived. This is now the era of the rising sun. And as he put it, the sun of Japan will never set because we have now destroyed the Pacific Fleet. And on his ship stood Admiral Yamamoto. And around him, all the sailors were celebrating, drinking. And his aide gave him the official body count and the official number of ships. And Yamamoto just opened up the note, looked at it. Sailors have testified to this. Put it back in his pocket, no emotion. And his assistant said, Admiral, I don't understand. Why aren't you joyous? Why aren't you celebrating? Why aren't you jubilant? This is one of the greatest days in all of Japanese history. Our ancestors are looking upon us with such happiness and pride and joy. And he just shook his head. And he said, no, this is a day of great sadness. And we will rue it for centuries to come. And they said, why? Because I fear we have awakened a sleeping giant. Dear leader, I told you on Saturday, and now I'm going to tell you again. By you pushing for an executive amnesty against the will of Congress, against the will of the American people, against the constitutional rule of law of this country, you will awaken a sleeping giant that you will never be able to put back again. My friends, it is now time that we, as the American people, say to this dictator and tyrant in the White House, your time is over. And you cross this line at your peril. 617-266-6868 is the number, because you're not going to get 10,000 on Beacon Hill. You're going to get millions coming out on the streets of Washington, D.C. And this time we're going to demand not only impeachment, but that you step down from power and leave this land that you have been cursing for so long. 922 on the great WRKO. My friends, my question to you is this. What do you make of executive amnesty? Do you believe Obama will get away with it? And what should the Republicans do? 617-266-6868. All of your calls. Next. 928 here on the great WRKO. Mike, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Yeah, certainly. I was holding. Hey, Jeff, I want to say a couple of things, if I may, before I get cut off. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
First of all, I want you to explain, in your brilliant mind and historical perspective, about the Supreme Court ruling in regards to the immigration law as far as Obama's rights and his ability to do what he wants. And just secondly, about that Scott Brown ad, Jeff.
Yes.
I want the people of New Hampshire to remember this, and remember it very clearly. Senator Kelly Ayotte, was complicit in this immigration into the state of New Hampshire. And not only that, she was complicit, and Brown was in agreement with her that these vile, racist sabotage of the election in Mississippi, they were part of that. And that election was so important to us. They stole it from a good and decent man. These people are complicit in the destruction of this country.
I'm with you. Mike, I'm completely with you. To me, the rhinos are part of the problem. In a nutshell, Mike, Supreme Court rulings do not give Obama the power that he now claims. That's what I'm saying. He has no legal standing, no judicial standing, no constitutional standing. Literally, this is the action of a rogue president. So I'm warning you, dear leader, you move forward at your peril. Mike, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on the show.
My pleasure.
I wanted to provide you and the audience a real-world example of not only what's going to happen with illegal immigration, but also health care. My daughter's 4 years old. She swallowed a penny a few months ago that got caught in her throat. So we went to the hospital. They said, we can't treat you here. You have to go to a Providence Children's Hospital. We went in. We walked into the waiting room, and there was 30 illegal immigrants, families, all in there. None of them speaking English. Absolute chaos. I sat there for 3.5 hours for my daughter to be seen. And, it almost brought tears to my eyes because I wasn't necessarily worried about my daughter. I knew she'd be okay. But I just kept thinking, what are we doing? I'm in here waiting 3.5 hours in line behind a bunch of people
who have no business being in this country at all.
Yeah, and I'm paying for their health care. I'm like, so I'm paying for them, and I have to wait in line for 3 hours for my daughter to be seen?
Mike,
outrageous.
Mike, I swear, please understand me, because I really understand your plight. Your plight is my plight, okay? Mm-hmm. When I say this, I don't mean it in an insulting way, because this is what the illegals, I know this, they've told me, this is what they call us, the dumb gringo. We're dumb gringos. And what I mean by dumb, not that we're mentally dumb, we're suckers. We're stupid. We're suckers. They have guilt-ridden us into somehow thinking our country is a dumping ground, a natural resource for everybody all over the world. And we just accept it. We're like a bunch of little lemons who just sit around, honestly, and they tell us, shut up, pay your taxes, obey your overlords, and do nothing. And the moment you get restive, the moment you start picking up your pitchforks and start speaking out, what do they say? Like a whip, the way they used to beat the slaves. Racist, chauvinist, sexist, xenophobic. No, you're a patriot. You're a father. You're a mother. Who's going to pay for this? We are being invaded. You know how you treat invaders? You kick them the hell out. 9:39, actually almost 9:40 now on the great WRKO. 617, Brittany says it is 9:40. Well, on my clock, Brittany, it's 9:39, 56, 57, 50. Okay, now it's 9:40. 9:40 on the great WRKO. On sale now at GetMyPerks.com is a half-off $50 gift certificate to Three Rivers Whitewater. Take a road trip to the Forks in Maine for an adrenaline-pumping adventure down the Kennebec or Penobscot River. A friendly guide, equipment, and a homemade lunch will be provided. The Penobscot River. Penobscot. Penobscot. Am I missing something here? Get a $50 value from Three Rivers Whitewater for only $25 right now at GetMyPerks.com. Brought to you by Get My Perks and Boston's talk station, AM 680 WRKO. My friends, Mini-Me, Deval Patrick, in response to our rally, is now saying, his lines are running 3-1 in favor of sheltering and housing all of these illegal immigrants. So apparently now we've done some calls during the break. I guess now they're starting to pick up the phone. So if you'd like to voice your opinion, because apparently the state is overwhelmingly in favor of dumping these illegals here, give them the call, 617-725-4005. 617-725-4005. And let them know how you feel. Just let them know how you feel. You can also text us at 680-680. Hold on. It's Peg Knobscott. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, my bad. I'll get that right the next time. Penobscot. Oh, I got it. Okay, Penobscot. All right, Brittany. No, you were right. I was wrong. No, you're right, Brittany. This is from 781. Jeff, the invasion of illegal aliens is like the Trojan horse without the horse. Bingo. This is from 978. Jeff, I brought my mom to the Social Security office when my dad passed away. There was not one is in caps, person that spoke English. Oh, I know, believe me, I know. There was an armed officer there, plus my mom had to show my dad's death certificate to prove that he died. These people do not even have to prove they're citizens. I know, 978, blank you. I've been saying this now. We are becoming second-class citizens in our own country. That's the real meaning behind all of this. Now, you want to see how bad this is? Honestly, you want to see how bad this is? This is not a skit. This is not from The Onion. This is not Saturday Night Live. Yesterday morning and afternoon, illegal immigrants, self-avowed, self-declared illegal immigrants. They kept saying, I'm an illegal. They had signs, I'm an illegal. Where do you think they protested? In front of, the State House? Maybe. Congress? Maybe. Asking for amnesty? God is my witness. They were right in front of the White House. They're there in front of the White House saying, we're illegals. They're almost daring them, arrest us, deport us, do what you want, but we're not going anywhere. They had no fear of arrest. None. And all I'm thinking as I'm watching this, you want to see what a banana republic we've become? I said this to Cooksey before the show. I say, try doing that in Russia. Just go in front of the Kremlin and say, hey, I'm an illegal immigrant. I'm in Russia illegally. Do that in France. I dare you. Do that in France. Do it in Canada. Go up to Parliament Hill in Canada and say, I'm an illegal. Arrest me. Your rear end, your butt would be in prison so fast it wouldn't be funny. You'd be on the first plane back to your home country deported. Who the hell does this? They're now so brazen. They're telling the whole world. They're telling our president, I'm here illegally. Nah. So, to the dear leader, if you love him so much, bring him into the White House. There's a lot of room there. Yeah, a lot of chefs, a lot of food. Michelle can teach him how to eat properly. They can boogie a little bit. They can maybe read some stories. Yeah, they bring in Jay-Z, Beyonce. Oh, they'll have a blast. Bring in Jennifer Lopez. Bring in, what was that ex-husband she had? Mark Anthony, maybe because they speak Spanish, you know? Yeah, I know, which one? But that one. You can la cha-cha. Have a little good time. The merengue, have a little good, the kids will enjoy it. It's like they never left home. No, you want to dump them in our communities, you fraud, you. Dee, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Well, hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I think the answer on this impeachment, I mean, this guy's like a bully. He's daring us. And the answer's in front of the American people. Let's just do an equal opportunity impeachment. Throw Bonner in there, too. And if you want to do equal branches of government, you do Harry Reid and you throw in Robert. Done.
You know, Dia, honestly, I never looked at it that way. But if Congress won't stand up to him, they're abdicating their duties. You know what? You're right. I make it an equal opportunity impeachment. They're all impeached. You're all gone. You, gone. Donna, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Thank you for your leadership, you good man.
Oh, thank you, Donna.
Yeah, that rally was awesome and sadly so very needed. And listen, it's just the beginning. You know, remember a few weeks ago when I talked to you and this invasion started and I said he was recruiting and he will be using these illegals in the upcoming elections. It's open now, wide out in the open. I think that this is treason. I don't give a crap about his color. And I think what needs to be done is all the border states have to send their own guards to the border to seal it now. Use anyone, cops, folks, whoever, just like the Israelis do. Congress has to pass an emergency resolution immediately terminating all executive actions and amnesties. The Supreme Court needs to make an emergency ruling stopping it all. And then the people, every Democrat and lefty had better vote against all the Democrats running to counter all these illegals who are going to be voting if they want to be safe from the criminals and cartels. Because I'm telling you, these criminals and gangs and the diseases do not care whether you're a lefty, on the right, or even a communist, or even if you agree with them. They will...
That was Donna. That was accidental. That was Brittany accidentally pushed a button. But your point is they don't care about your politics. Yeah, Brittany's like, seriously. Brittany, can you come on the air and say that? Because people may think, honestly, it was deliberate.
No, I really honestly didn't mean to do that.
A little quick on the trigger.
I'm sorry, Donna.
That's okay. You're very aggressive with the board today, Brittany.
I didn't even mean to hit it. I'm so sorry.
That's okay, Brittany. No, but I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy, Brittany. What Don is basically saying is these diseases, these criminals, these gangbangers, they don't care about your political affiliation. They don't care about your ideology. They don't care about your race. They don't care about your religion or your gender. That's Donna's point, and she's dead on. Absolutely dead on. And honestly, Donna, apologies. That was a preemptive strike by Brittany. It was a mistake. It was a little mistake. John, Brittany's face is red. She actually agrees with you 110%. She's a little quick with the trigger. She's got a bit of a twitchy finger. John, you're up next. Thanks for... Who do you want me to go to, Brittany? Okay, John, thanks. See, now she doesn't even like who I'm calling out. Well, you want to do the show, Brittany, or what? It's incredible. She's taking over Cooksy's responsibilities. I think I've unleashed a monster here. John, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Is that okay, Brittany? Can I take John? Yeah? John, no. John, you're up next. Thanks. Sorry, it's like my home. It's like Grace and the kids. No one ever listens to me. John, you're up next. I always say, hey, I'm the host. Don't mind me, but let that go. John, you're up next. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Hey, I just want to let everyone know, if somebody's afraid about being called a racist, well, maybe they are. You know, we have an opportunity to actually handle this situation and do it the right way. These people are not doing their jobs. Okay, it's not because of their racial color. It's basically because of their ideology. And unfortunately, we don't have anyone on the conservative side that's promoting a solid conservative ideology. You know, you have Scott Brown on the fence, you know, and I can't really trust him. You know, he's like he waffles a little bit too much. The only one we really have is Ted Cruz. So, I mean, what are we going to do as a people? We're not even promoting what we are. Everyone tends to think of the Tea Party as racist. Okay, that's totally incorrect. You have more people that are saying that we want to protect American values and who we are as a people because we are the United States of America. We are going to get better and improve as a people together. If one of us falls, we all fall. And we're all falling right now.
Bobby, and Brittany, please, Don't take them off the air. I can see her finger already moving. Yeah, her hands are up. Bobby, this is the $64,000 question, and this is the point I want to stress to you and to all the listeners. Please listen to me when I tell you this. I wish I could show you all the texts and all the emails. There are many former Democrats, moderates, independents, even some liberals who say, we're with you. We agree with you. You're not crazy. You're not an extremist. You're 110% right. We have seen that this guy is a radical in the White House. So, Bobby, when they try to portray the Tea Party as being extremist or out of the mainstream, that's the liberal media elites. It's like the communists used to do that in Central Eastern Europe. Make you think you're out of the mainstream, that you're alone, that you're marginalized. That's why the rally was so important. Because if there's so few of us, if we're all a bunch of these extremists, how could we get 10,000 on a Saturday in a hot July in the middle of the weekend? And do you know how many walked up to me and said, Jeff, I used to be a Democrat. I'm no longer a Democrat. You speak the truth. You speak for us. So, Bobby, we have the truth. Well, and Jeff, we're gaining converts. John, I'm sorry. John, my bad. Forgive me.
That's okay. Bobby's keeping me on the air. Brittany wants to knock me off.
No, I know. Bobby's next. She's trying to get Bobby in. It's incredible. But
well, here's the deal, Jeff. I was born and raised a Democrat. Back in the days of Kennedy and everything else, and there was a good stereotype that was saying the Democrats will take care of the working man. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The Democratic Party has been usurped by these liberals that are actually they're Marxists.
Yes.
That's the point. Now, the stereotype of the Republican Party was that they're corporatists. And that stereotype remains true when you look at Boehner. Now, we don't have anyone that's coming up and promoting solid values of being an American. You know, say what you will about Tip O'Neill. He was an American. He had a different view of how to actually handle things than Reagan, and I'm not defending him because
I understand.
The more I know about Reagan and the more I learn about him, the more I actually esteem him. But we're looking at a situation now that they're taking our values and just, it's like 1984. No. What's bad is good.
Exactly. No, John, look, a great call. But I'm up against it. I got to let you go. But honestly, great call. Look, we are for the working class. We are for the people. We are for the middle class. And that's why it's going to come. You saw Sean O'Connell. You saw Jeff Deal. There's a new generation coming. Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, John, trust me, that's just the beginning. Kuhner country, God is my witness. You know who's the future? You. 9:58 on the great WRKO. Brenda, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hi, I had heard that there were flying in illegal Muslims.
Brenda, I haven't heard that. I know there's been 9 plane loads. Most of them, what I'm aware of, are illegal immigrants from Central America. Carol, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Carol.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
I was proud to see you, Brittany, and Cooksey Saturday.
It was great seeing you, Carol.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say that this will be an egregious act if he goes against what the people are crying out against. And I think that maybe we should do a citizen's arrest, millions of us, if government won't do its duty. I pray every day that he'll be taken out somehow by God's will, and I kind of hope that, somehow my prayers will be answered.
You know what it is, my friends? Obama is the problem. You know what the solution is? You know what the antidote, the cure is? Kuhner country. My friends, we started to flex our muscles on Saturday. It's just the beginning. I gotta go. You've been listening to Boston's Bulldozer. And remember, together, we're beating liberals one day at a time.
And bottom talk in between.
Executing assigned host duties flawlessly because I can't do wrong.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.